Have you ever noticed that a lot of answers tend to just generate a whole lot of new questions? That's what we've got going on here. A lot of people have asked me about nicotinamide riboside. As you know, I do use niacin and recommend use of niacin. Vitamin B3. It helps to improve HDL, LDL, several things. Now, a lot of people ask about the side effects, with the two biggest side effects being a temporary increase in insulin resistance, the other one being flush. So I decided to, frankly, I did not know about nicotinamide riboside. I have just gotten some samples and I'm taking them and trying them. Starting to do some research on it, and it really starts to raise a lot of questions. But let's just uh, first talk about one of the first articles I pulled. It's Nature Communications, Nature magazine. It's one of the best science magazines in the world. And here's the study, March 2018, so very recent. Chronic nicotinamide riboside supplementation is well tolerated and elevates NAD plus in healthy middle-aged and older adults. So this was a fairly small study, and again, we'll get into it in just a minute. But it starts to, as I said, starts to raise some other questions. Well, how many forms of niacin are there? There's NR, nicotinamide riboside. Many places indicate the nicotinamide itself is different from nicotinamide riboside. That's a remaining question. Then you've got niacin, of course, and then you've got nicotinamide mononucleotide, or NMN. Let's go back and just talk a little bit more about the riboside. Nicotinamide riboside, NR, what is it? It's a form of vitamin B3 discovered in 1944. It was first seen as a growth factor for H. flu. H. flu is a common bacteria that causes some pneumonia and some other things in humans, Haemophilus influenzae. Again, it's not the flu virus, it's a different bacteria. So there's been a lot of study of H. flu, and it cannot grow on nicotinamide or niacin. At least that's the understanding, which implies that nicotinamide is different. How about nicotinamide, a form of vitamin B3 discovered in 36 on the WHO list of essential medicines? It's over the counter. There's and deficiency of this item of pellagra. Pellagra is where all of the vitamin B3 items began to be discovered as a vitamin. Again, back in the early 20th century, back in the 1920s and 30s, you did see people that had pellagra. In medical school, you learn them as the 3Ds: dermatitis, diarrhea, and dementia. And as you see here, this gentleman has a severe case of vitamin B3 deficiency and dermatitis. Now, back to NR, the riboside form. What's its major advantage over niacin? Well, it doesn't cause flush. That's the thing. Well, there are other methods of managing flush. That's what we've done at Prevmed for years with our patients. We've just given recommended Enduracin or Rugby extended release. A lot of people say, oh, the extended release is a major problem for the liver. I don't think so much for these two brands. Again, it's more of a wax matrix preparation, which is just releasing it slowly. It's not any additional chemicals. One of the additional chemicals that's been tried to decrease flushing with niacin is lapropiant. And the evidence would indicate in some of the studies that lapropiant does get rid of the flush, but it appears to get rid of the impact as well. Was it the all? Well, I was trying to remember the names of the studies. I've covered those in other videos. Other ways of managing the flush, if you take just niacin itself, is to take it 10, 15, 20 minutes before a shower. Take it at night before going to bed. Some people say just get used to it. Others say, you know what, I enjoy that flush. Not a lot of my patients have felt that way. So back to the study that I mentioned in the beginning. So this study does show a couple of things that are very, very helpful. How big a study was it? It's not that big. It's a crossover design, meaning that they took 60 people. It's randomized. So there's a randomized clinical trial component. Randomized clinical trials are the top of the line in terms of being convincing medical evidence. They took a group, added placebo first, and then NR next. They took group B and did NR first and then placebo next. That's what that crossover design means. At the end of the day, what did they see? It was very well tolerated. No, didn't have the issues with flush. And it improved NAD+. So again, a couple of very interesting positive components. Now, as you start looking at the article and getting deeper, there's a lot of places where they start getting into areas that are clearly within the longevity space, like it doesn't impact sirtuins, therefore not likely to be used in longevity, but it also gets into discussion and direct comparison to caloric restriction, also arterial dysfunction and blood pressure in rats. So again, there's, I think the jury's still out, at least for me. I'm going to be continuing to do some more research in this area. A couple of things I'm going to be looking for is, what is the specific difference, if any, clinically and chemically, between nicotinamide and nicotinamide riboside, and are those differences significant? How about, does the absence of flushing actually impact metabolic effect? And again, as you know, especially you guys that are NR or NMN aficionados, I'm sure you can help me out. Please provide some comments. I'm enjoying getting a little bit deeper on this issue. Again, this is not going to be a long one. I'm coming to the end. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for your interest. I'd like to take a few minutes to plug one of our activities, the cardiovascular inflammation course. Now, am I trying to make money? It's $30, and I spent over 40 hours working on it, and we've had dozens of hours of Kim, our social media director, and some other people working on it as well. So it actually does defray some of our costs for Kim, but I don't expect it to ever, it's not going to be a gold mine for us. Here's my motivation. I want to make this information available to people. I've retired, but I don't want to not work. My legacy goal is to help people understand their risk for heart attack and stroke. You see, I see the vast majority of us 60 and older, 50 and older, 40 and older. In fact, if you go back and look at some of the other studies, maybe over half of us 30 and older are starting to develop some of the major causes for inflammation. Well, let's go back. Wait a minute. Inflammation, doesn't your doc know about that? Unfortunately, most docs don't. They've heard of it. They've got a theoretical acknowledgement of it, but they don't know how to test for it. So one thing you could do, by the way, is buy this course for your doctor if he or she does not know about inflammation and how to measure it. You can measure it in yourself. Now, how do you get to the course? First, this is a picture of our homepage, prevmed.heartrisk.com. Then you go, so here's the top of that page. Then you just slide on down. It used to be up in this black banner, but Michelle has changed that banner to talk about our heart attack and stroke conference. It's in Louisville, November 8th and 9th. You can actually get a complete evaluation, including CIMT, the cardiovascular, all the cardiovascular panel tests, all of the inflammation resistance, basic testing, the details behind lipids, cholesterol, etc. You can get all of that done at once. It's a great way to do it. But that's not what this is about. This is about the inflammation course. This course actually teaches you and or your doc something that Time magazine knew back in 2004. This is the Time magazine cover from 2004. The secret killer, the surprising link between inflammation, heart attacks, cancer, and Alzheimer's, and other diseases, and what you can do to fight it. Now, you can get that article. It's not going to tell you all of these things that you're going to learn from this. This tells you the details of the testing that is now available for cardiovascular inflammation. So if you saw what I did, I went to the home page, went down to the bottom of the page, clicked on the course, and this is the description of the course. First and again, overall, it looks like a lot of material. You can cover all of this in less than 2 hours. It goes into, we'll give you an introduction to inflammation. We talk then about, we have a video on each of the 4 key inflammation tests that we use and we would suggest that you use. C-reactive protein, microalbumin-creatinine ratio, MACR, myeloperoxidase, plaque-2 or LPPLA2. Now, it's one thing to know how to test for it. It's a very different thing to be able to test yourself. And we also have a video on how you can get that done too. So go in, take a look, invest $30, learn what's involved with cardiovascular inflammation testing, and know your numbers. Thank you for your interest.